My poly under duress story. Support only. Hire/polyamory. I've been putting off doing this for a long time because I think I've been in denial about what an emotionally abusive situation I've found myself in and have finally decided to leave. I, 27F, am leaving my partner, 26M, and former fiancé after over 3 years of dating. I have stretched my boundaries so far and believe he has become delusional about what relationship structure he even wants. When we first got together, we agreed to some degree of non-monogamy. It was something we both wanted to explore, but we're pretty sure it was more in the swinger realm, or at least it seemed like that's what he wanted. I'm bisexual and wanted to have threesomes with him and other women and/or be able to explore my sexuality in a casual and fun way within the safety of my relationship with him. This worked for almost 2 years. We had multiple experiences, but they were short-lived, albeit fun. After 1.5 years, he proposed to me in a very public way. I once told him I'd prefer if it was a private conversation when he did that, but I digress. I accepted, but at that time he began expressing concerns that he'd heard everything goes downhill once you get engaged. I assured him we could get through anything because we had a lot of love and devotion for one another, or so I thought. That was pretty much the end of the easy times for us. Wanting to step up personally and step into the role of fiancé and future wife, I decided to attend a trade school program in the hopes that I could achieve a new career trajectory within a year. Being in school and working proved to be very taxing and put a lot of stress on our relationship and on me personally. I didn't desire a lot of intimacy at the time, particularly because he really just wasn't home at the same times as me due to our schedules. About 4 months into my schooling, he came to me and told me he wanted to have this particular woman he worked with as an additional partner without me, strictly for fun. They had discussed it the night before while drinking at her house. I felt completely blindsided because we had always discussed doing things together, and he had even said he didn't want me to be intimate with someone without him, which I had agreed to under the impression it was a mutual boundary. His proposed partner was someone I'd never really cared for, and she made some rude comments regarding my body on several occasions. I got the impression she was trying to undermine my confidence. Since his request to pursue this woman was more of an ultimatum, I felt I had no choice but to at least let him try. After a few months of this, I still really didn't feel comfortable, particularly after I sat her down for a one-on-one talk about boundaries and she couldn't sit still or really give the conversation the space and respect it needed. So after 4 months, I told him to cut it off, and he did. But only after rushing to her defense every time I told him about something mean she said to me. Fast forward to later that year, another situation with another coworker. God, he was so desperate to shit where he eats for some reason, who also rubbed me the wrong way. She wasn't malicious per se, but just flaky and ran him through the ringer with constantly canceling plans last minute. I tried to get him to cut that one off, but he insisted he needed to figure it out on his own, and so I watched him get played by her for a few months until he finally said enough was enough. That brings us to this year. A few months ago, he started talking about wanting to bring our mutual friend in as a third. Someone we'd both known for 5+ years who was recently out of her own toxic relationship. I was hesitant, but again he said he can't take it back, he wants to try this, he's attracted to her, etc. So okay, we had a threesome and it was so fun. It was fun for a little bit until he got completely wrapped up in it, and at this point was just fully invalidating any jealousy, boundaries, or whatever I had. We had gotten to a point where he was insisting that I had no reason to be anxious and just let him do this. He can love 2 women at once. Not really helping my insecurities, but I figure I guess I'll try. We went on a trip with her and it blew up into a fight. When he got mad, I expressed jealousy a couple times. He felt frustrated and told me I was being a pick-me girl. That's when he decided he didn't want to marry me anymore. After the longest car ride of my life with the 2 of them, where he was showering her with affection and completely ignoring me, the next day he tells me he doesn't want to get married. So we talk and feel like we get to a good page, and I'm basically just shoving my emotions to the back because I want to keep him. This happened less than a week before my bachelorette party, which had already been paid for. So we still went on the trip. Our other partner went with me, BC. She was in bridal party among other friends. I was struggling being away for him for a week. It was the longest we'd ever been apart. I was sad and I missed him, and I didn't feel like I could reach out to him. He was inaccessible for the most part. I felt hurt, and I admit I contacted him more than he said he wanted because I was used to seeing and talking to him every day, and other people's partners on the trip were calling them periodically to ask how things were going while I got radio silence from my supposed-to-be future husband. I got home and he told me he doesn't think we should live together anymore. He thinks I should go stay with my mom, he pays rent, and he asked me to keep paying the electric for the remainder of the lease. I was reeling and I didn't want to leave. He even gave me a sobbing apology before I left, but really has distanced himself since then. To make a long story short, he left in the middle of our second couples counseling meeting today after I confronted him with the lack of agency he's given me in this situation. He was upset with me the other night when I went to visit and brought up negative feelings after he made comments that really made me feel like the apartment wasn't my home anymore. He's already erased me, so I was hurt, and he acted like a child. Belittled my little $200 I'm paying for his electric bill. Rescinded his offer to cook dinner, so I did instead after he said I could start there in trying to fix the night. Said he needed space but came back and still didn't want to talk. Told me if anything bothered me that he did I was supposed to compartmentalize it and not talk about it outside of our 45-minute therapy session that we share once a week. And I still stayed the night, begged for his affection, fucked him, ironed his shirt in the morning per his request, and dropped him off at work. He did not thank me. Less than a week ago my best friend told him if he really wants Polly, he's gonna have to be okay with me finding a second male partner as well if I decide to. He was drunk that night and later with me acted really jealous at this prospect, and told me no other man will ever treat me half as good as he does, which I find silly given how he's treated me lately. Anyway, I'm just heartbroken, and him leaving our counseling session as soon as he was being held accountable by the counselor and me solidified that I'm done and he's completely given up. I'm just sad because I don't understand why he ever asked me to marry him. I really wanted to give Polly a try, but only if it could be respectful. I'd love some support from this community right now as I feel like I've tried to do this the right way and I really feel like he just wanted a harem. Update 1. Forced into a throuple with my best friend. Coping. Hi everyone. I told a bit of my story yesterday in this post here, but have decided to make it a bit more concise and accurate as I left out some details. I, 27F, am ending my 3-year relationship and engagement to my partner, 26M. We originally agreed to occasional threesomes with other women. I'm bisexual and I was excited to explore my sexuality. Our sexual adventures outside of our relationship were agreed to be done together as partners. We moved in together 6 months into our relationship. A year later, he asked me to marry him publicly on my birthday. I accepted. I went back to school around then in an attempt to find a better career. This put stressors on our relationship. -4 months later, he told me he wanted to start a sexual partnership with a female coworker without me. The two of them discussed this separately together before my partner spoke with me. We previously had discussed swinging with her and her partner, but declined. I expressed my doubts, but he assured me it would work, and I reluctantly agreed to give it a chance. After a few months, I was increasingly uncomfortable with the situation as I coped with my feelings of jealousy, insecurity in addition to very negative comments and disrespect from his other partner. I tried to make it work with him and with her, but eventually asked him to break things off. He did immediately. During this time, he was our main breadwinner. Volunteered to pay the rent on his own so I could focus on school, but then was out drinking every night with coworkers and spending money he didn't need to. We struggled with bills, and when I brought up my concerns, he would call me needy or controlling. Earlier this year, he wanted to bring in a mutual female friend of 5+ years as a third, shortly after her own long-term relationship ended. We had a threesome on his birthday, which was fun at first. Then he became invested and confessed having feelings for her. He wanted to pursue dating her as well as me. I thought it'd be messy, but he continued to push and convinced me to give it a try. During this time, our anxious/avoidant attachment style dance kept repeating and worsening. One night he raised a hand to me after I jokingly, drunkenly and accidentally used the word be *tsh at him in a playful way I'd say to my friends. He told me, I make him want to strike me sometimes. He threw a bunch of stuff around our apartment, told me I'd have to clean it up, and then later begged me not to tell our third about this behavior. 3 months before our wedding date and 1 week before my bachelorette party. He told me he didn't want to marry me anymore, at least not right now. He's not ready and we're not ready. I spent countless hours planning the wedding, mainly by myself, and my mother lost about $20,000 in deposits due to the cancellation. I went on the already paid for bachelorette party with my friends. When I returned, he told me I should move out so we can rebuild our relationship from a distance. I moved out, and he continued to date our third and binge drink while I committed to reading Polysecure, individual therapy, and also enrolled us in couples therapy. He drunkenly admitted to my best friend that he and our third had had sex behind my back when I set an explicit boundary with him not to do that until we'd had another group convo establishing boundaries again, which they both agreed to. He used to treat me very well, was affectionate, generous, and kind. Ever since he started pursuing other people outside of threesomes, his demeanor and behavior towards me changed. Over time, things no longer felt functional, healthy, or safe in our relationship. I tried everything I could to try and repair and mitigate the damage, while it has felt like he has given up and actively continued to worsen the situation. I have decided to leave him and am going to get my things today. In addition to all these things, the sexual dynamic has changed recently between us, and he's been belittling me sexually, emotionally, financially, and from a standpoint of the acts of service I have done and continued to do for him up until Monday morning. Yesterday we had our second couples therapy session, and he logged in several minutes late, hungover as hell, and left after about 15 minutes when I finally expressed the lack of agency he's allowed me to have in any of this. I'm kinda just here for support and validation because I have been gaslit for so long into thinking I'm the problem here. I wanted to try poly, but to be honest, I don't even know what I want for myself at this point. I just know it's not him.